All right, hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talkin Investing. You're here with Tom and George. Hello, George.
Tom, how you doing?
Doing all right today. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about some facts.
Have you heard of this? I forgot the name. The song that goes, "This is the end." You ever hear that song? It's like
I'm not getting it from.
Sings it. I forgot what it was. It's like this is where we are witnessing the end of our financial system. We are currently witnessing the end of our financial system as we know it.
The end of what was.
Yeah.
According to George, you think this is not.
We're not going back to the old way, according to Trump. That's what Trump just said. Yeah, 2 days ago at NATO or the G8, whatever that thing is, the World Economic
Davos.
Forum.
Yes, yeah. The World Economic Forum.
We are not going back to the old way. He almost said there's a new world order. He didn't say that. That was said by Carnegie or whatever that guy's name is up there.
Yeah, somebody else went and said that, but I don't think they knew what they were saying. And obviously that was the big news of the week. Every once a year, all these guys meet, and it's usually, this is a weird year because this is Trump crashing the party. This is not your typical Davos. So it was very interesting.
I am waiting for the pop in Bitcoin. I'm telling you, I feel like it's coming more now than ever before.
Let's get a poll going right now.
I feel that they have just done, it seems to me like that with the financial meltdown or whatever's going on, with gold going nuts, silver going nuts, why isn't Bitcoin going nuts? That is my question. I know. I don't know gold or silver because I was buying Mara and said, we've been talking about silver since 20 bucks, guys. We've been saying that silver's going crazy. So that shouldn't shock anybody here. And I think this is just the beginning.
The only thing that I'm like, we have been talking about silver for years. I'm surprised it ran this fast to 100. We're going to talk about silver and gold for sure. I mean, there's a lot of changes out there right now. And so we're going to ask what George would said. Let's get the first poll going. Are we about to have a big move up in Bitcoin? We've had a monumental move up in gold. Silver's actually even done better recently. And, this is supposed to be digital gold. So are we about to participate in all of this upside? Or are we at the end of our 4-year cycle and we're not going to participate in this upside? That's really the question. That's the fork in the road we're at. I feel strongly about which way we're going next, but let's see what you guys think.
No, I feel it, but it doesn't ever happen. So, you know what I mean? I've been feeling this way for 2 years, Tom.
I'm going to
get there one more day.
We're also going to, it's funny. CZ came out and said some stuff. So I want to talk about that as well, because I think it's very telling. And obviously, he's one of the biggest players in the crypto space, if not the biggest player. Sour Mountain Gaming, thank you for being a member. Thanks for the super chat. And thanks for being the #1 chatter of the day so far. 2.47 million coins on exchange, not even close to shock.
Facts don't care about your feelings, I know.
Facts don't care about your feelings. Thank you, Alexander. And that's one of the things I want to talk about today. We saw this week play out. Retail investors don't trade on facts. They just don't do it. And that doesn't mean every single person to a person, right? Obviously, there's the experienced people that have finally gotten used to, or most of which have learned the hard way, myself included. I mean, this game is not easy. But They don't trade on facts. They trade on emotions, while in the background, there's money manipulating this. And you got to understand how everything's working. You got to look for the facts. And we're going to talk more about that. As you read articles and as you get what you think is information, you have to really look. Is this actual information? Am I being given an objective fact here or set of facts? Or is this somebody's opinion or interpretation? And it's okay if it's somebody's opinion or interpretation, but understand the difference, because those are fundamentally different things. And too many traders. We talked on Tuesday's members only live stream. We talked the whole time. And I mean, I couldn't have been more clear that Tuesday the market tanked. The buzz was the United States is going to attack Greenland and we're headed to World War III, and that was all ridiculous. None of that was based on any actual facts. And we said on the members only stream, this will resolve itself this week quickly, as it always does. This is effectively, there were tariffs associated with this. This was tariff scare number 15, if I'm counting right. Every single one of them has resolved the same way in a very short period of time. And this one's all already done. By the time the Friday stream has come here, it's done. It's over. And no one will remember it. But just 3 or 4 days ago, everyone was in a full-blown absolute meltdown, as was the market. As was Bitcoin, as were the Bitcoin miners, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is what I'm talking about, facts. Somebody say Bitcoin is so boring, which is exactly what's happening right now. We are absolutely in a consolidation phase, and so are we about to get a big move in Bitcoin? First of all, if you would be so kind, if you guys could smash the like button, the thumbs up button. It does help us out quite a bit in real time. And we need to get people over here to the stream. Gambit Beer. All of Europe will remember it. I promise you. Remember what? The Greenland thing? I mean, look at the... I'm not exactly sure what Gambit Beer means by that. I would just say, look at the facts surrounding that. Look at the speech at Davos. Look at the fact that no tariff was ever implemented at all. There was never any threat of military action on Greenland. So I know a lot of you are sitting at home right now going, well, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. We're on the verge of war. And it's just simply not true. That was never discussed. It was never on the table. I said so before Donald Trump said that word for word in his speech. I said on our members only stream, there is a 0% chance that we're going to attack Greenland. It was if there could be less than 0, that's what the chance was of that happening. That's not how this works. And if you're paying attention to the facts over the last, we've been getting, you can like Trump, you can hate Trump, you can be indifferent about Trump. But if you haven't figured out what he's talking about after 10 years, then that's on you and you're going to lose money. And it's about our money. That's what this channel is about. It's about investing. It's about understanding what affects the market. It's about drowning out the noise and getting to the facts. And if you're interpreting everything on feelings, you're going to lose. And, we don't want to lose. We want to win. That's what we do this for.
David, that's a great statement, because that's another fact that is correct, but you have to go a little deeper with it. It says the fact that Germany sent troops to Greenland means everybody is nuts. Well, do you know the answer to that, Tom? Do you know about the troops?
I can tell you what happened with Germany.
Yeah, you guys prepare to laugh.
They sent 13 troops to Greenland, and then they brought them home 2 days later.
13 people.
13 people. All of Europe combined sent what? 35 people?
I thought it was 44.
There was never no escalation. Nothing was happening. First of all, who are you gonna take over? There's 50,000 people that live there.
But it's just, but that's a great one. There was the total, I think it was 44 people altogether. From like Poland sent one person. It was kind of just so funny.
But the media, and this is where you got to get to the facts.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. There was, and I don't blame people. There was 1,000. You were inundated with article after headline after video on all of the legacy media saying, that NATO's in danger. NATO's going to invoke, this certain rule to attack the United States, and et cetera, and we never thought we'd have to use NATO to defend ourselves against the United States, and it was all nonsense. There was no escalation, and inside of this thing started and finished so fast. We went from live stream to live stream, and it's over. We never even got to talk about it in the middle, unless you remember. And then we got to say on Tuesday, but that's how this is going to resolve, and it didn't take like the next day. So
yeah, it's really interesting what's going on. It's just, these are the things that, and how does this play into Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners, Tom?
Well, this plays into the fact that what we're trying to do is we're going through a hard period of consolidation right now, and we're asking ourselves, in the big picture, we need to be asking ourselves, the 4-year cycle, theoretically, if things continue on the 4-year cycle, then the 4-year cycle's over, and we should be headed towards a crypto winter. The question is that's what's coming next, right? That's the fork in the road we're trying to figure out. As we really consolidate, we are doing some massive sideways consolidation.
It don't seem like sideways to me.
Well, it feels like pain. It does feel like pain. There's volatility inside of the sideways, but look at today. All green, right? I mean, IREN was up 8.5% today. TeraWolf was up 9.5% today. That's not neutral. And when we look at what's happened to the Bitcoin miners / data center stocks, that is our new terminology on this channel, because the reality is the data center piece of this puzzle is, from a revenue standpoint, it's still quite small compared to the Bitcoin mining piece, but from a market cap and a valuation standpoint, it has already exceeded the Bitcoin piece for these companies. And that's only going to grow more and more and more. And the revenue is going to catch up. For some of these companies, the revenue, the data center revenue is going to skyrocket past the Bitcoin mining revenue. Even for some of the big ones like IREN, who's got 50 exahash, a year or two from now, their data center revenue is going to be bigger than their Bitcoin revenue. Now, they're both very capital intensive things, and they require energy. And if you look for the facts, and I'll show you a thing from Kevin O'Leary, most of you know him from Shark Tank or everywhere else that he's shows up all the time. And he's talking about data centers and energy infrastructure. That's the real play here. And that is this list of stocks. I kid you not, I was all capitals. I was expecting Trump to literally call U.S. withdrawal from NATO. But there's a reason you felt that way, because they hyped everybody up into feeling like that's what we were on the verge of. And this is where I'm saying, just dig a little bit, take a deep breath. When you see a news segment like that, or an article or something on YouTube, just take a deep breath and go, okay, you know what? Let me go figure out what's going on. This is due diligence. This goes back to the one thing we harp on: do your own due diligence, because most of what's out there is it's nonsense. It's clickbait, and the networks, no one's bigger participant in clickbait than the legacy media. They live for that stuff. The truth means nothing to them. So,
well, and I think that's all part of the real narrative that's going on. Take your money.
right, that's right. Then, and that's what it's always about the money.
And it was about the money before Trump was here. It was about the money before Biden was here. It doesn't matter who's president. It's always been about the money. You don't agree with that?
No, I 100% agree with that. This is not a new phenomenon. They spin it like it's brand new every time, and this time we literally had a conversation, and people were saying, "Well, this time it's different." On Tuesday's live stream, remember? Oh, this time it's different. You know, this isn't like the other tariff scares. This time it's different. It's very serious. And if you watch what the leaders over there in Davos were saying, first of all, the situation's all wrapped up already. It played out
done, yeah.
as everybody expected it would play out, and
there was no crash in the stock market. There was no crash anywhere. There's no war. There's no nothing. It just FUD.
Right. It was 100% FUD, and now the issue's gone. We won't even remember this. One of the members, I think, was saying Europe will remember. I don't think Europe will remember, because here's the thing: like, Europe got very, and I don't even know how much of this was the media versus, because I listened to a lot of the European leaders and a lot of the NATO leaders. The head of NATO was on board with this from start to finish. He never had any disagreement with Trump, and it's about national security, and everyone's going to say, well, it's about minerals. And guess what? It's about minerals too. For as much as they say it's not, yes, you're right. It's about rare earth minerals, but that is the secondary piece of this. If you look on a map, people have no idea how enormous Greenland is. Now, if you look on a map, it actually looks even 5 times bigger than it is in reality because of the distortion on a flat map from a circle globe. But it's over 2 million square kilometers. It's one of the biggest countries on Earth, and there's 50,000 people that live there. It is directly in between the United States and the Soviet Union. Sorry, I've just jumped back 30 years in time. Between the United States and Russia. So I know that none of us sit here, or at least I hope that you don't, none of us sit here and think about the big bombs, going across on intercontinental ballistic missiles, and we hope that day never comes. And you know what? It feels like we've avoided all that, but the United States is building a defense system, and if you look on a map, you can't do it without Greenland. That's just smack dab in the middle, and that's the bottom line. So, and that is not just to defend the United States; it's to defend Canada, it's to defend Europe. So I don't want to be an apologist here for Donald Trump, because listen, there's things I agree with, there's things I strenuously disagree with, but this is one that was a no-brainer from the beginning. This has been obvious. And James Landshark is saying just another taco trade, and that's Trump. What is that? Trump always chickens out. So that's a big thing.
That's
but here's
an awesome one, James.
But here's the lesson to take away from it. I don't care which one of these two things is right. You can. Awesome. Oh, I know. Either one of two things is true, and it honestly doesn't make a difference which one it is. Either Trump is following the book he literally wrote about negotiating, and he starts out by asking for radically more than what he wants, and that settles somewhere in the middle. That's one option. I mean, he did literally write that book, or he chickens out every time, and he makes big claims, and then he chickens out and never follows through. Both of those have the identical result. So who cares which one it is?
Did you guys see the Epstein stuff? Oh, great. There we go. I shouldn't have said that word.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, there were supposedly condoms that went around that had Trump's face on it, and it said it's huge.
Oh my God. See, this is what I'm
It's
saying.
huge.
It's all just the nonsense that comes at us is relentless. Relentless.
Yeah, ask Venezuela if Trump chickens out.
And Frederick is saying, I agree about Greenland and then all caps, but the way he does it will destroy U.S. relations with everybody. And I understand. Listen,
But I think he doesn't care about me. That's, I think, where people are confused. I think Trump feels that we've been getting screwed by the rest of the world since 1980. And I don't know if you listened to Scott Bassett
Oh,
conversation. And
he was outstanding,
yeah.
I thought.
Oh yeah, but he talked about since 1980, the United States has contributed $22 trillion more into NATO than the other countries.
Than all the other countries of NATO put together.
I'll say that number again, guys. $22 trillion. And I think that's what, it's been, the United States has been the world's piggy bank, unfortunately.
And here's the problem. We didn't have that 22 trillion. It's not like we were, this isn't, 75 years ago, we were half the world's economy. That's three-quarters of the world's economy, GDP wise. That's just not how it works anymore, right? We have a different dynamic. And Gary is saying Trump realizes politics get nothing done. His approach does. And I think that's the bottom line. It also ruffles a lot of feathers. There's going to be a lot of people who will always dislike Trump. That's just how it is. I will look back and see if all this worked or didn't work. And that's how history should remember every president. Did they leave us better off than they found us when they got there? That's it. That's their job.
I still think this year is going to be the tale of two halves. I think the first half is going to be nothing but aggravation, and then the second half is going to go crazy. And everybody said Trump's was it $200 billion or 200? I think it was 200 billion that they just moved a whole bunch of mortgage loans off to get it. So the interest rate, so the mortgage rates would go down. Let me see what the average mortgage rate is right now.
Well, I know the 10-year and the 20-year have been pretty stubborn because everybody has been panicking. And there's this other, once again, facts versus opinions. People are starting to think there's going to be rate hikes. So we're going to talk about that later as well. Sourmelon Gaming, we will look at ABTC. Sourmelon Gaming said, Tom, go look at ABTC's chart so we can have a good laugh.
It says purchase is 6.2 and 15 is 5.66. So it came back up.
Yeah.
Because it got below 6.
Well, this is what I'm saying. But this is another narrative that people are listening to that, in my opinion, is just not based on fact. And Gary's saying, and I don't want to belabor it, but Gary's saying, no way going diplomatic route would have yielded results on Greenland in his 3 years remaining. I mean, he came in with the checklist, and he's gonna do as many things on that checklist as possible, no matter who it pisses off. And if you like those items on that checklist, you're going to be happy. If you don't, you're not going to be happy. And they're just people in both of those groups. And then there's the third group of people who like what he does. They just hate the way he does it. So that's life.
Waffles just said by the end of the year, CleanSpark will be down to near $3.
Wow. That's a catastrophic
statement.
Well, okay, so on that note, let's go take a look at what the Bitcoin miners did this week. And more importantly, I want to show you what they've done year to date, which is also month to date since it's January 23rd. Those are one and the same. Because let's take a look, because here we go. Let's take a look at the facts.
Oh, and remind me, Sour, before the end of the stream, I have to talk Buffalo Bills. I don't want to do it now because once I say it to Tom, he will lose his mind what I tell him. He's going to be, you got to be kidding me. And I'm not, unfortunately.
I'm trying my best not to think about the Buffalo Bills, but I would love to hear that later. We'll get to that. Let's take a look. So here's this week. It's all visible. All right, so not the greatest week for Bitcoin. Down 6% this week. And again, this was on the
wow.
The world is ending scare. We're going to war. We're exiting NATO. We're going to attack Greenland, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to, and all of that, the part of that links to the more immediate problem is that Trump announced there was going to be tariffs. February 1st, which is next week, on the European countries that didn't go along with the Greenland deal. So this is where the rubber hits the road. This is why it's affecting our investments and our money and the interest rates and all those things. So there was going to be 10% tariffs that kicked in, and then they were going to escalate to 25% tariffs. So obviously that caused another tariff panic. But my point was, how many times, we're all Charlie Brown at this point, right? We all keep trying to kick the football. And for those of you not old enough to remember Peanuts, Lucy would hold the football and then pull it out from under him, and Charlie Brown would fall down. And every time. And that's us with tariffs. Every time there's a tariff brought up, everybody goes into a pure state of panic. And I say everybody, and I understand there's a bunch of you watching that aren't a part of that everybody, but the majority of the market goes into a panic and the market tanks. And what has it been every single time? It's been a buying opportunity. So this one was no different. And I think you're going to see it play out that way. Oh, and yes, Dave, ABTC is not on this bar chart. I got to get it on here. I just have, all of these, I have historic data going back years and years and years. And I have it on my monthly updates, but I don't have it on this chart. So I'll add it to the chart. And it's not doing well. So we will go take a look at ABTC. And then we'll see where you guys think it's going next, because that's at an inflection point as well. And that's one where, so if anybody that shorted that, congratulations for having the nerve to do that. We called out on this channel when this thing was worth, it had an $8 or $9 billion market cap. It was just monumentally out of balance with all of the other Bitcoin miners. And I said on a couple of streams, I'm not going to short it. And this is a long history. I don't short anything. Why? Because I know as I look at that, I'm certain it's overvalued versus its peers. But I have no idea how long it's going to stay overvalued. And I don't know if it's going to get twice as bad before it gets better. In this instance, it happened to correct itself fairly quickly and went down to what I think is a much more reasonable valuation. But those are hard trades. Just straight out shorting something without protection has unlimited risk. And even if you're 100% right, you can be wrong for long enough that it can decimate you. So this one played out the way I think a lot of us thought it would. But the question is, what happens next? When crypto winter comes, and it will come, all the miners will crash. So I would argue, I'll tell you guys, I'll give you an advance and then we'll talk about it. I've said this before. I think we had crypto winter, or what is the equivalence of what we're going to have going forward. I think we will have, like all other sectors, we're going to have bull markets and we're going to have bear markets. I don't think there's ever going to be another crypto winter as defined by that 75 to 90% move down across the board. Now, the altcoins are a different story. And I got an article that kind of differentiates between the big coins, Bitcoin, a couple of the other big coins, and then all the altcoins, which the altcoins are almost in a crypto winter from their highs right now. But I don't think the big ones are ever going to do that again. And it all has to do with adoption. And every single stream, we have articles that talk about adoption. So here, I'll go right to but before I do that, I'm going to put a pin in that because I want to go. This doesn't tell the story. So we had a little bit of a pullback this week. This doesn't look so great, but we're 23 days into the year. And this is what our year looks like so far. Bitcoin's up 2%. IREN's up 50%. Riot's up 36%. Cleanspark's up 35%. BTDR 30, HUT 27, Hive 25, TeraWolf 23, CIFR 19, Marathon and Bitfarms 17%, compared to Bitcoin's 2%. So the Bitcoin miners / data center stocks are so far in 2026 crushing Bitcoin. So will that play out the rest of the year? It's very early, way too soon to call the year in one direction or the other, but I'm not going to argue with the way this started. I mean, my biggest position coming into this year in my portfolio was IREN. That was already my biggest position, and it's up 50%. So, but these have big swings, right? So it's still not back to where it was 3 or 4 months ago. So most of these are not back to their recent highs. So are they going to run back up there, or are we going to, is Bitcoin going to go the other way? And does it even matter if Bitcoin goes the other way for some of these that have leaned heavily enough into the data center, high performance computing / AI part of this program that it really won't even matter what happens on the Bitcoin side, potentially. So are we about to get a big move up from Bitcoin? This was very close to 50-50, George, but yes, 47, no, 53. So no wins by a little bit. So pretty much split on where we're going next. And that's exactly where they want us. This poll is exactly where they want everybody, which is, I don't know what's coming next.
Flip a coin.
Flip a coin. And I'm going to tell you, because CZ addresses this. So Binance's CZ says Bitcoin will, quote, break the 4-year cycle this year. Binance co-founder CZ told CNBC he expects Bitcoin to break the 4-year cycle and reach new all-time highs this year, being 2026, diverging from its typical 4-year pattern. So if ever there was an industry insider, this is one. Z contributes his bullish outlook to what he describes as increasingly pro-crypto policies in the United States and other countries, which he said are improving the global environment for digital assets. He said he is advising about a dozen governments on crypto regulation and asset tokenization, while also pursuing personal projects such as a free education platform, an investment firm, and mentoring founders in the BNB chain ecosystem. Here we go. So this is the quote I want to read, because I think this is the one that resonates with me, because I've been saying, it's this short-term guessing game is very different. Where's Bitcoin going to be next week? I don't know. Where's it going to be next month? I don't know. Here's what CZ says. Quote, if you are looking at today, tomorrow on a daily basis, there's no way I can predict which way the price of Bitcoin is going to go, the crypto exchange founder said in a response on Squawk Box. Quote, if you're looking at the 5-10 year horizon, it's very easy to predict we're going to go up. Right? I mean, does anybody, let's do that poll. This will be very interesting to see where you guys, because this kind of goes to the future of Bitcoin. So I'm asking, will Bitcoin outperform the equity markets over the next 5 years? Right now, we know we're going to talk about silver and gold. They're on a tear. They hit numbers that are incredible. And I think Bitcoin's going to get its turn. I think it's going to participate. That's where you started this whole stream off today, George, is that Bitcoin's going to get its turn and participate to the upside. And
I totally think that's what's going to happen. Yeah, this year.
yes.
I mean, I don't really think that's going to happen.
Who knows? Who could ever know?
I don't know. I mean, really, there's a lot of moving parts. It's fluid.
It's a fluid situation. A lot of moving parts. So here's this goes to something that we were talking about a week or two ago, and George has brought up, and it came up in the context of a Bitcoin miner, Bitfarm, which is changing their domicile from Canada to the United States, but they moved their headquarters to New York City. And, my knee-jerk response to that was, well, that's where the exchange is. Obviously, there's an exchange in Chicago as well, but the New York Stock Exchange is in New York. Well, guess what? I was watching an interview, and so I looked this up because the New York Stock Exchange is now opened for business in Dallas, Texas. NYSE, Texas. Expanding on the New York Stock Exchange's 230 years of shaping global markets, NYSE, Texas launched in 2025 as a fully electronic equities exchange based in Dallas, one of the nation's fastest growing business hubs. So you can list yourself on both of these exchanges. There's people that are moving only to the NYSE, Texas platform, and I think you're going to see this grow and grow. Texas is ahead of the curve. They're ahead of the curve on cryptocurrency. They're ahead of the curve on data centers, and now they're going to get into being an exchange. Oh, by the way, the New York Stock Exchange announced they're going 24/7 by tokenizing securities and being able to trade them on the blockchain 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that is coming soon from the New York Stock Exchange. And I think this Texas piece of what they're doing is going to grow rapidly. So, and this is in response. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see. Wall Street's Texas move gains steam as the NYSE Texas hits 100 company milestone. President Lynn Martin, so it's right here. Lynn Martin sat down with Maria Bartiromo and gave a quick interview. And, the highlights are basically she talked about the tokenization process. She talked about the fact that she thinks that Texas is going to be roaring as far as the stock exchange goes. And the 24/7 part of this is a big deal for them. And then they're trying to make it so that, as you buy and own stocks, you can also convert them back and forth so that you're participating in dividends and all those other things. So the New York Stock Exchange is kind of leading, but this is more adoption. right? What do you think is going to happen when stocks are trading 24/7? Now, in my very strong opinion, the hedge funds, the business as usual is still going to happen during the regular trading hours. But there's a lot of opportunity. Things get crazy sometimes overnight or over the weekend.
Will hedge funds be able to trade after hours? That's the question.
They'll be able to.
There we go. Hold on to your money, guys. Because you know what's going to happen. They're just going to make more money.
Well, that's usually what happens at the end of every move. The question is, can we figure out a way to participate with them? Right? And that's where, and that goes back to the theme of this particular live stream, which is digging in and finding the facts, doing your due diligence, getting to the facts instead of the emotional. This is an emotional roller coaster, especially the Bitcoin / data center stocks and cryptocurrency. The volatility is real, and they keep talking about how the volatility is going down and down. Well, it don't look like the volatility is going down to me when you've got still a day where there was, two of these were in double digits for most of the day. So these are big moves, right? And that's a regular occurrence. IREN's up 50% this month. If you're not telling me that's volatility, that's massive, massive volatility. And by the way, IREN is not a little company anymore. So I'm going to go take a look at. It's still not back to its highs from several months ago, but it is now an $18.5 billion company. It was over $20 billion. By the way, that's 10 times what all of these stocks were put together 3 years ago. Never mind the fact that this was a $230 million market cap 3 years ago, and now it's an $18 billion market cap. And I don't think it's even close to done running. That's my opinion.
Tom, and that's a nice little 10x for some people.
I'm already at almost a 10x right now on this, and I just got into this. I had a fortunate trade. I got out of, we've talked about this at length, especially among the members. About 9 months ago, I felt like these Bitcoin treasury companies were going to start to run into a problem. Their valuations seemed to have peaked and they were kind of on the downturn. I had a bunch of Microstrategy. So I had decided as soon as I get back to break even, and I was very close. So within, a week of making that decision, I got back to break even on my Microstrategy, sold it, and I got into a couple of other stocks, including the majority of which I put in IREN. And IREN was trading at $6 and I think $6.18 when I did that. And now it's at $56. So it's only 9 months later. And I'm not alone on this, right? People are up. There's gigantic moves on some of these. So I know, listen, on the flip side, their marathon sits in the tens still. So I get it, right? There's been some winners. There's been some losers. There's been some in the middle. Some of these you got to wait for longer, but there clearly have been winners, and IREN is certainly one of them. Right? Some of the 230 million to 18 billion is stock dilution. They did two $500 million offerings. So you can see that sounds like a lot when they were a $230 million company. But it's not when they're an $18 billion company. So, and now being this size, they could go raise $500 million whenever they want. So I want to go to, while we're talking about it, Microstrategy was in the news a couple of times this week because that was the other half of the trade. Now, Microstrategy's down like 55%. In the same time, I'm up like 900% on IREN. Microstrategy, which is now Strategy, didn't change tickers, but changed names. That's down about 54% from when I sold it. So that can show you, inside of the same space, how drastically different things can react. Okay, so this came out yesterday. Michael Saylor indicates more Bitcoin purchases in change of pace midweek tweet. So they update us at the beginning of every week on what they did last week. I'm going to go to that real quickly. It's also on their website. So here's their weekly purchases. The last 2 weeks, 13,627. Last week, 22,305. Now this week, he tweeted in the middle of the week, I think I want to buy some Bitcoin. So let's see what this, on Monday, we'll find out what this number was this week. But they have now 709,715 Bitcoin, over 700,000 Bitcoin before whatever they bought this week. This will be 1 million Bitcoin before you know it. There's only so many Bitcoin. So when you have, and this is where I'm talking about adoption, and I don't know when the perfect storm occurs, but you've got the ETFs with way over 1 million Bitcoin. You've got MicroStrategy closing in on 1 million Bitcoin. You've got dormant wallets with millions and millions of Bitcoin. You've got about 4 or 5 million Bitcoin that are lost and gone forever. There's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin altogether. So you can see the scarcity is real. Unlike really any other thing that's out there. This is finite, and we know exactly how many it is. And although we will be mining Bitcoin for the next 100 years, the reward is getting tiny. So most of the Bitcoin's already been mined. And Waffle said strategy will rise again. It's just waiting on Bitcoin. So I happen to actually agree with that. So it's my opinion. I haven't bought back in. I don't know that I will, but I do think if you look at Strategy's chart, also if you look at Strategy, their MNAV, it found support at 1. It got down to 1.02. And I said for months now, I think all these are going to find support at 1. And by the way, MicroStrategy is kind of in its own league, right? A lot of the other Bitcoin treasury companies, they have 4,000 Bitcoin. They have 10,000 Bitcoin. Some of the gigantic ones have 30,000 Bitcoin. These guys have 700,000 Bitcoin. So nobody has scaled to this extent. They are their own thing for now. And I think, 1 times value is a really solid floor to be accumulating at. This got up over 3, which means the stock, even if Bitcoin didn't move, the stock would triple if it got back over 3. I don't think it's ever going to get back over 3, but could it get to 1.5? Could it get to 2? And in the meantime, could Bitcoin run from 90 to 120 or 150 or 180? If both of those things happen, you could see a monster run in this company. So not financial advice. We don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. But in my opinion, I agree with you, Waffles, that this is bottoming out. That's what I think. So here's another Bitcoin enthusiast. So to be fair, you always got to understand who you're listening to. And Kathy Wood is a Bitcoin enthusiast for sure. ARK Invest sees Bitcoin and tokenization driving the next phase of digital asset growth. The asset manager said Bitcoin's institutional adoption and asset tokenization are pushing digital assets towards scale, potentially reaching tens of trillions by the decade's end. And she gets more specific than that. Okay, ARK Invest said Bitcoin is maturing into an institutional asset with ETFs and public companies now holding about 12% of the supply. That's only going to go up. The asset manager projects the digital asset market could reach roughly $28 trillion by 2030. That's 5 years from now, right? And we're kind of where we've been stuck at 3 trillion. We got to 4. We pulled back, but tokenization, things are getting tokenized. Laws are getting passed. We'll talk about what's happening on that front in the United States. There's been some roadblocks. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think you're going to see that happen. Everybody was hoping it was going to happen by the end of January, that we would get crypto legislation in the United States. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. We're also going to talk about the pending government shutdown, because I've very conflicting reports on this. And then I want to show you what Polymarket has to think about this, because it's very confusing to me. So we'll see what you guys think. First, let's check in on the poll. Also, if you guys could do us a big favor, if you just got here or if you haven't done so yet, if you could please smash the like button, hit the thumbs up button. It does help the stream a lot. It's much appreciated. QWERTY says, thoughts on coin, Tom? So Coinbase, they're an integral part of what's going on with legislation, and they actually moved the needle. They came out under the wire and basically said, we don't support the bill that they're going to vote on. So they literally canceled. Armstrong, the CEO, came out and said that, and the Senate canceled the vote, because what little chance they had went to zero when they lost that support. Now, if you dig in and see what's going on, there was some issues with that legislation. I don't know how these issues are going to get resolved. Here's the gigantic, multi-trillion-dollar question. Are they going to allow stable coins to have yield? Because this was going to basically do everything in its power. The bill that was about to get voted on was going to do everything in its power to cut off any loophole that would allow that to happen. If you can get yield on your stable coins, then your cash in the bank and your money markets start to have no advantage at all over being on chain, right? They become indistinguishable from a money market. And so a lot of people are saying, well, if that's going to be true, then they should have the same regulations. So there's other sticking points. A lot of them revolve around Trump, but those are much smaller. This is the big deal, because what does the banking system do if stable coins can have yield? So they got to get to the bottom of that. I don't know if there's a way to pass this legislation and still leave that a gray area so we can at least move forward. A lot of people are predicting this is still imminent, not in January, but the consensus is that we're going to get legislation in 2026 and probably the first half of the year. I just don't know. There's that sticking point right there is that's King Kong. That's more than an 800-pound gorilla. I
think that's the reason why we're in the situation we're in right now.
Yeah, I agree. Wow, James Landshark is saying, and I did not verify this, but it's worth writing down and looking into. He said, Tom, the IREN CEO will now receive a huge compensation bonus if the stock reaches $370, $650, $925, and $1,850. So I'll take 370 for the win. I'm gonna write that note down, because that's if they're thinking in those terms, and I do think that IREN has a lot of upside. $1,800 boggles my mind. I mean, again, 9 months ago, I bought this for $6. So that would be one of the great runs in the history of the stock market. But, you know, we have them.
Yeah, but you know what? Somebody was saying that they bought HUT for $1.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. That's exactly right.
So, I mean, these things are paying off. It's just taking time.
A lot of these are up. A couple of these stocks are up from the bottom of the crypto winter. Now, it's not fair to judge it from the bottom of the crypto winter because unless you're the luckiest person out there, you didn't buy 100% of your shares on the absolute bottom of the crypto winter. But if you dollar cost averaged in, the crypto winter, this was the longest crypto winter in the last cycle by far. So you had an opportunity to buy things. You got CleanSpark was $1.75. Bitfarms was 37 cents. So Bitfarms went from 37 cents to over $6. CleanSpark went from $1.74 to over $20 at one point. So yes, there have been, and those aren't even the big moves. There's a couple of these that are up about 5,000% from the bottom. Now, I'll tell you which one's not up 5,000% from the bottom. Marathon. Marathon has been the worst of these stocks by a mile for the last 2 years. I've been holding it for longer than that. I dollar cost averaged in all the way through. So it remains to be seen if that's just dead money sitting there or if they're going to have their run. They were the last ones in on the data center AI portion of this program. And they've announced they're in, but they haven't necessarily specifically done anything. So I'm hoping they are now, by the way, they're a few days short of 90 days without a press release. That's Marathon. So I continue to look at them and say, when are they going to give us some news? Because that is a long time. Remember, this is a company that for 3 or 4 years, in addition to all their other press releases, they gave us a press release of their monthly operation report every month for like 4 years. They stopped doing that several months ago. And not only did they stop giving us that press release, they haven't given us any press release regarding anything since November 4th. So I would like to hear something from Marathon. And I think their stock lingers because they're radio silent and they got to make a move on the data center front. Right? They got to show us they're doing something. That on the flip side, I will tell you, they have 53,000 Bitcoin. So if and when Bitcoin does its thing, they're going to gain a lot of value off of that. And they have a very strong balance sheet. This is a company that can do good things. Are they the best Bitcoin mining company? Not in my opinion. Are they behind the curve in AI? In my opinion, yes. They're other than ABTC, which is not getting into AI. They are a pure play Bitcoin miner. They're going to be the last pure play Bitcoin miner. And we know they're not going to get into that because we know they're not going to get into the high performance computing because their major shareholder is HUT 8. They actually get consolidated up into HUT 8's financial statements. So they're not going to go to competition with the company that owns them. So they're going to be a pure play Bitcoin mining company. It does differentiate them from the rest. At the moment, it does so in a bad way because Bitcoin mining sounds and seems toxic. But I think that is a short-term situation. But I would rather see a company that's getting closer to 50-50, Bitcoin mining and data center revenue, energy-based companies, which, IREN, Wolf, a lot of these guys, CIFR, I don't want to leave anybody out. Riot announced they made a major shift within the last year. Maybe it's been a year. Time flies. where 700 megawatts of their infrastructure is now going to be for power and data centers. And they already get gigantic credits for energy when the Texas grid needs energy. They turn their machines off, give that energy to the grid, and get paid big bucks for it. So they're in a way, they're already involved in that. They've got 700 megawatts that if they can turn, slowly over time, if they can turn all of that into data center, there's a lot of money to be made there. So, all these guys are at different phases in where they're at. And some of them are going to be big winners. Some of them are going to be little winners. Some of them are going to fail, right? We just watched the last halving. We have half the number of stocks on our list that we did 4 or 5 years ago, because a lot of these companies, even if they're not completely gone, they're nano cap stocks, right? While the ones on our list have turned into billion or multi-billion dollar companies, some of these are still hanging around as $10 million companies. So we voted a long time ago. We don't want to look at those anymore. Most of them have gotten out of Bitcoin altogether. And James is saying, Tom, those targets are indeed true, which is the price targets on the IREN stock. So, I could just tell you, 370 is the lowest one on those. You're talking about that's a 60x from where they were 9 months ago. 60x. So if you invested $1, you'd have $60 if that happens. Right? If you invested $10,000, you'd have $600,000 if that happens, et cetera, et cetera. You guys could do the math. And Gary's saying, I bought IREN for $1.15. It bottomed at $1.02 that day. So congratulations, Gary. So that's what I'm saying. I got it at $6, and there's somebody whose basis is right. They already did a 5x by the time I got in, and I've done a 9 or 10x since then. So multiply that by 5. They've done a 40 or Gary's got a 40 or 50x going here, basically close to a 50x already, and he could get another 50x if they just hit if they just hit the bottom target of the numbers that you're talking about. So I don't know when or if that'll happen, but that's one of the stocks I intend to. I will ultimately at $100 start taking some profits, but that's one of the stocks I intend to hold, indefinitely unless something fundamentally changes. I don't think that's a swing trade stock. Some of these other stocks I will probably get out of and get into other. There's some other good stuff brewing behind the scenes that I think will be next. And I don't want to hold all of these forever. And I see somebody saying, I bought more IREN shares. I hope they will have a decent earnings report. So they just announced, thank you for mentioning that. They just put out, like today or yesterday, bigger so you guys can see, IREN to release Q2. So they are not a calendar year. So most of these companies are going to be working on their annual 10Ks. IREN's not doing that. This is the second quarter for them. So I think it's the second quarter. It's the 3 months ended December 31st, 2025. They're going to report that on February 5th. So we're only 2 weeks out from getting financial statements from IREN. Now, Bitcoin struggled basically for all 90 of those days. But I still think you're going to see IREN was very profitable, even with Bitcoin at those lower numbers. We bounced off at 80,000, maybe averaged 90 or 95,000 over that period of time. But I think IREN's cost basis are in their Bitcoin that they mine, and they sell 100% of their Bitcoin, and they invest it all. So they have no hodl. They take all their Bitcoin, they sell it, they pay for operations, and they pay for CapEx on building out their data center infrastructure. So I think a lot of people love this formula. That's clear from the fact that they are by far, so far, the leader in this space. And yes, we're going to get. So I don't know that there's going to be a giant move based around that. We'll see. Maybe. We will get some more details, I would think, because IREN is another one. Now, IREN, unlike Marathon, IREN came out and said, we're going to stop doing monthly updates. So, although they stopped, and that frustrates me, I do prefer the companies that give monthly operational updates, tell us how many Bitcoin they mine, tell us how many exahash they're running, all those types of things, what their plans are going forward. IREN told us a long time ago, we're getting to 50 exahash. We're going to stop when we get there, and everything going forward from that point indefinitely is going into high performance computing. So they've told us what their plans are. They then executed those plans, did exactly that over the course of the next basically 12 months, and it's paid off very well for them. So they're certainly, so far, they're certainly a winner, or their stock is. So from an adoption standpoint, here's another article. And I just like to sprinkle these out because, again, these are the facts. Right? This article isn't my opinion on what I think is going to happen. Swiss banking giant UBS is planning to offer crypto services to specific clients. UBS, which oversees $6.6 trillion in assets. So this is one of those handful of companies, right? There's less than 10 financial institutions that have this kind of money under management. This is about half of what BlackRock has. They are the leader. They were at one point at like 13.6 or 8 trillion dollars under management. Not sure where they are right now. But 6.6 trillion is enormous. And plans to let select wealthy clients trade Bitcoin and Ethereum as part of a broader digital asset push, according to Bloomberg. The move reflects rising demand from rich clients and comes as UBS evaluates partners for its crypto offering while monitoring regulation, market trends, and risk controls. So one after the next, we're seeing these gigantic financial institutions start to move into this space. We're at only the absolute beginning of this process, despite the fact that we're 100 plus of these types of press releases. You know, this is just them turning the switch on. Now, you know, the buying pressure will come over time. Dave is asking, Tom, what are the companies behind building, quote, building the infrastructure on these data centers? I think that is lost investment angle. So that's a great question. And I want to get an article that talks a little bit about that. And I don't have a list of companies. I don't know if there's publicly traded companies that are, I mean, basically you're talking about construction companies.
I don't think there is a go-to construction company for AI.
And a lot of the expertise, like in IREN, they have the expertise. So they subcontract all their work out, I'm sure, but they make their own data centers. Now, they don't, right? I'm sure, like I said, they use a lot of subcontractors to do so. And your question is there one of those companies out there? But here, this is Kevin O'Leary. Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary on betting big on data centers and why most crypto tokens will never come back. The Shark Tank investor is preparing shovel-ready sites for Bitcoin miners and data centers, betting that infrastructure, not tokens, will drive the next wave of value. So that's really basically what our position on this channel is all about. He's trying to take this even a step further back than we are, potentially. So what he's talking about Kevin O'Leary said he now controls 26,000 acres of land to develop low-cost, utility-ready sites for Bitcoin mining and future AI and cloud data centers, which he plans to lease once permits are secured. So he's actually getting in just on the land side of this, securing the energy agreements, and he doesn't plan on building any of it out or doing any of the rest of it. So that's the absolute beginning of the food chain. That's as far back as you can go from a picks and shovels standpoint. But the next step is those companies that build out, own the data centers, own the energy or the rights to the energy. And that's the companies that we invest in. So yeah, there is a step even behind that. I don't have any of those play. If anybody has any of these types of companies, you can drop them in the chat and we can look into them and see what's what. But in my opinion, we're particularly companies that are really embracing, like Riot, even Riot, which I think is pretty quiet. People don't, that move hasn't happened yet for Riot. And one of the reasons, they've had a big move up, but they haven't had the full move up because I think people are in show me mode because IREN has been slow in the past. I'm sorry. Riot has been slow in the past at reaching some of their stated goals. They've missed some target dates and that kind of stuff. They've changed plans. They had that, what I consider ill-conceived, gigantic sidetrack of trying to buy Bitfarms. But all that's behind them. And I think they're pretty focused on getting this data center stuff up and running. So even a Riot, which if you look at their chart, right here's Marathon. This is what I'm saying. Like they are still bouncing off the bottom. I have a line at $9.81. They actually went below that for a couple of days. They're bouncing off of it again today. I mean, this goes back to November of 2023. That's over 2 years ago. They're bouncing off of that bottom, and they've been inside that period. All right. You can see they've been as high as $34. This is a $10.50 stock at closing today. In 2024, it was a $30 stock. In 2023, or actually February of 2024, earlier that year, it was a $34 stock. So this is where I'm saying Marathon has been one of the big losers in this space so far. I do think there's a massive amount of room to the upside. They have not given, they've been radio silent for almost 3 months. I think we're going to hear from them in 2026. And while this is not maybe, you know, I'm not saying this is the A+ gold standard stock. I'm saying 2 years in a row, it was the worst performing Bitcoin miner / data center stock. And over the last 2 years, it is by far the worst performing. So it has further upside than any other stock just from that perspective, even if it's only going to be a middle of the road, mediocre company. Sour Melon Gaming, thank you for being a member and thank you for the super chat. O'Leary endorsed SOS, the China scam. He's a fraud. I was going to say, we dropped SOS off the list 4 years ago plus. When somebody went and took pictures of like the side of a barn that basically was their, allegedly where their headquarters and operations were running. So I didn't see him endorse that. Did he endorse that back in the day? I'm guessing not anytime recently. But there's a lot of these companies that, like, that's what I'm saying. We washed out a dozen companies that just didn't make it through the last halving. Old Jock saying, didn't O'Leary also endorse FTX? That is true, but to be fair, everybody got that wrong. FTX was widely considered the absolute, and I don't know how this is true. I don't know why this is true. And it's another one of these things where they were basically universally considered the gold standard in cryptocurrency. And obviously, they were a nightmare wrapped in a disaster. So everybody got that about as wrong as they could get it.
But I can't even say anything.
George wants to talk.
I just can't. It just, you know. When you know, you know.
That's right.
And that, let's just say that was, it did its purpose.
Yeah.
It served its purpose. If you know what the true purpose was. Did exactly what they needed it to do.
And Gary's going back to the 2021 run-up. Marathon had huge retail support after 2021, $81 run. Retail gave up on them by the end of 2023, and they've crashed since. So retail has exited them. Retail has exited. This is why you've seen. Here, I'm going to go to a chart and just show this a little more clearly. Here's the December monthly operational reports that we got. We got one from CleanSpark, one from BTDR, one from Riot, and one from Hive. We also can give a report, but I put them below the line. There's variables there that they're quite different companies. Kang mines a lot of Bitcoin, but their cost is like double everybody else's. So it's really not apples to apples. Of the big companies, you'll see in kind of light blue here, Marathon stopped doing monthly updates. IREN stopped doing monthly updates. CIFR stopped doing monthly updates. Core Scientific was the first one to stop doing monthly updates. They were doing daily updates on X, and then they stopped doing those many months ago. Bitfarms stopped doing monthly updates. HUT stopped doing monthly updates, and TerraWolf stopped. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. ABTC never started, but there's 7 that were doing them that stopped. There's 4 that are left. And I don't know, are these going to fall off one at a time? I hope not. I get value out of these operational reports, but this is not a coincidence. These 7 companies, look at the companies. IREN leaned heavily into AI. CIFR leaned heavily into AI. HUT is all data center and energy. They have a subsidiary of theirs, ABTC, that's Bitcoin, but HUT itself does no Bitcoin. TerraWolf leaned heavily into data centers. So all of those companies are intentionally separating themselves from Bitcoin from a perception standpoint, even if in reality they continue to mine Bitcoin, because it's just what Gary just said. The retail investor has absolutely zero appetite for Bitcoin mining companies. Now, if Bitcoin goes on a big run, you might see that change. These are super volatile stocks. And now they also have, a lot of them have the AI piece of the puzzle going for them. And James, thanks for being a member. James said, do you think retail has just given up on management's ability to improve shareholder value? Seems management is concerned more about increasing its own compensation. This has definitely been a years-long theme with some of these companies where management does make a lot of money in a lot of these companies because they're smaller companies. I will say a lot of it's tied to stock. And so to me, I'm okay with that portion of it because if they're big shareholders, then, their motivation is in line with our motivation as shareholders. But, these big, giant actual cash payouts, it's a tough, there was 2 gigantic knocks against Bitcoin companies. They totally fixed one of them. These guys were doing at the market offerings like nothing anybody's ever seen. As a percent of their market cap, it was astronomical. But the bottom line is this is a very, it's equipment heavy, right? But on both sides, on the Bitcoin side and on the data center side. So there's a lot of CapEx required for these companies. And so they did an awful lot of at-the-market offerings. Nobody was lending money. If you remember, there was at least 2 full years where these guys couldn't get a loan, period. They couldn't even get a loan against their own Bitcoin for a while. So as a result, and with the halving coming, they had to ramp up operations massively. So they fell into a situation where they were diluting. That's over. That's been over for a long time now, and I don't think it's coming back. That doesn't mean none of them will ever do an at-the-market offering again. But now, as 6 million, 8 million, 6 billion, 8 billion, 10 billion, $18 billion companies, if they go do a $500 million at-the-market offering, it doesn't mean the same thing that it did when they were a $500 million company doing a $500 million at-the-market offering. So I think they've got a lot more room to do that. They do a lot of this now through convertible debt, some of it through straight debt. So they've fixed all of that. But yes, some of these owners have too much compensation probably for most investors. You know, if they had their way.
Even bought a nice jet.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't remember who that was.
Well, CleanSpark has a jet. Or somebody. I don't know. Somebody got a jet. But that to me is not the major concern. To me, I'm trying to look at their business. Have they adjusted? And I will say I was late to the data center party. But I changed my mind a year ago. So that was late, right? IREN was there all along. Wolf was there all along. Everybody else has kind of entered in over time. Marathon is the last one. CleanSpark was one of the last ones, but when they jumped in, they jumped in. They've already made acquisitions. They've got data center ready megawatts, and so they're moving quickly. We got to see something from Marathon. Until we see something from them, I don't expect any monstrous run-up. And to put it in perspective, if I go back to... So Marathon's at $10. If I look at Marathon, Riot, and CleanSpark, these 3 stocks, one day, and it was maybe 6 or 7 months ago, on the very same day, in the very same hour, they were all trading for $9. It's 6 months later. Marathon's, or 6 or 7 or 8 months, however many months later it is, Marathon's gone from $9 to $10.50. CleanSpark's gone from $9 to $13.71. And Riot is leading the way, going from $9 to $17.28, almost a double. So, and it is because Riot was the first out of these 3. Riot announced a long time ago. They had actually advocate group of investors come in, buy up a bunch of shares, and put pressure on the board of directors to say, hey, you need to look at this data center high performance computing stuff because you're missing the forest for the trees. You got to get into this. The board looked at it. To their credit, they looked at it and they said, you know what? That's 100% right. And they've shifted. Now they've gotten a big contract already. So that's why while Marathon is almost still sitting exactly where it was, Riot's almost doubled. And it's not even one of the great performers, right? Because in that time, IREN's gone from $6 to $56. So these are all moving at different paces. And only time will tell. And His Honor saying Hive was one of the first on AI. Hive's been on AI for a long time. I will say it's at a different scale than a lot of their competitors. They got caught off guard. They had a lot of CPUs back from the mining Ethereum days. And if you remember, Frank, who's their CEO, was very surprised that Ethereum actually went through and switched from proof of work to proof of stake. He thought there was going to be more mining of Ethereum for years to come, and I did too. And it's a part of the reason I just can't wrap my brains around Ethereum. They make these monumental, fundamental changes in who they are and what they are. They also have basically what I consider to be an owner, where Bitcoin doesn't have that, and Bitcoin is true proof of work, right? It's got the biggest proof of work network. It's bigger than every single other proof of work network added up, put together, times multiples. So to me, that is the true independent. It's got a finite supply, based on the changing rules. They weren't sure when they switched rules, is this going to lead to more Ethereum or less? Right? They had to just wait and find out and see what happened. And they've got other big moves ahead. So I won't say I'm an Ethereum hater. I will say I don't get it. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm slow, but I don't understand it. And it seems to be more inconsistent. Having said that, it's the second biggest cryptocurrency, and it will probably keep running up. So, who knows? But the point of all that was Hive by default switched over to some data center stuff. And to their credit, they've been building that out, but they are a smaller company. They're at much less of a scale. I like that company. I own some Hive, not financial advice, not telling you to buy it. I own some, and I think there's good things ahead for them, but they're not going to be one of the monsters in the space. They just haven't scaled up fast enough to keep up that way. But that doesn't mean there's not room for them to be one of the winners. And Dave's saying, Sue isn't that hot anymore? No. Sue is. Last I knew she was, so that would be news to me if she's not. But let me know in the comments if somebody knows that. And James is saying, Tom, Core's buyout deal was 0.1235 times CRWV. So today would value of Core's at $11.50, but Core's closed at $18.79. And at the time, it was valuing Core's at $30. And the shareholders said, no, I think we're better off on our own. And understanding that CoreWeave was the company that was going to buy them, and that is their vast majority of their income. It's their biggest customer by a wide margin. But nonetheless, shareholders rejected that offer. I think something everybody thought was a done deal for a year ended up getting rejected. So we'll see how that plays out. And
I think overall, do you think it would be good?
Cores?
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk about first in, Cores switched over to data centers. Now, they went through a bankruptcy, a Chapter 11 in the middle, but they came out of that. There have been a few of these. Hertz did this. Core Scientific did this. They went through that. They came out the other side, a much bigger, better, stronger company. And they've got, more revenue from data centers than anybody. And they've got a lot of capacity. They are winding down. They're not talking about it. But if you look at the numbers, I don't think they've bought a Bitcoin miner since they came out of bankruptcy. And they just slowly keep taking the ones they have offline as they become not profitable. So I would say at the next halving, and this is my guess, I don't know if they've come out and said this specifically, I would guess they will have 0 exahash at the next halving, and they will just be a data center company. But I think that, we're living in a world where that's the thing to be. So Jonas, the brother, said Ethereum is owned by the banks and consensus, which runs on the back end. My problem is Ethereum, we know for a fact they're going to make multiple fundamental changes to their blockchain. We know this because they laid all of it out for us years ago. And one of which was to go from proof of work to proof of stake. And they did that. And that's where, you know, there was a big argument. A lot of people thought that would never happen, but it did happen. And it caught a lot of people off guard. But that was years ago now. And there's a lot more to come. And I don't know. I mean, maybe there's people that think Ethereum's going to be the biggest winner out of all of them. I can tell you, Tom Lee's one of those people. He opened a company and they have bought over 4 million Ethereum in the short period of time they've been open.
Tom, do you think this stuff is like a long-term play? Meaning, like multitudes, like years and years and years. Do you think, for example, like XRP?
I think the tokens that win are definitely long-term plays. You know, back to Kevin O'Leary's article, whatever you think of them, I do agree that one of the things he said is most of these tokens are going to go away. But remember, that's out of the hundreds of thousands or millions of nonsense tokens. If you go to the big board, right, if we look, well, let me go. I want to talk about this one in specific in a minute, but you know, if you go to the top 10, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance, XRP, Solana, those are companies that could be, you know, they could have a gigantic growth trajectory that goes on for decades. But, you know, by the time you get down to, let's say, number 400, this could be gone. This market cap's $114 million. Right? If this falls off a cliff and there's, you know, I don't know how many there's on CoinGecko, there's almost 19,000 coins listed. So by the time you get out of the top 30, their market caps fall off a cliff, and most of these are probably junk. Are there some gems in there somewhere? If I knew which ones they were, you know, I'd be rich. I don't know who gets these right. Probably the people that make them, right, and are in on the initial supply. To me, I would much rather be on page 1 here. Oh, not like that, though. Right, so, some of these. Now, I will tell you, let me go to an article because so this article came out a couple of days ago, and I don't invest in a lot of altcoins. So to your point, George, and maybe you know more about this, you are more of the crypto person as far as the altcoins go than I am by far.
We're screwed then.
And we're all in big trouble. Chainlink is one of crypto's most undervalued infrastructure bets. This from Bitwise. So this is a big player. Chainlink is a dominant software platform quietly powering stablecoins, tokenization, DeFi, and institutional adoption across crypto. Bitwise CIO Matt Hugan, pardon my pronunciation, views Chainlink as critical infrastructure that connects blockchains to real-world data assets and compliance systems. Chainlink dominates multiple fast-growing crypto infrastructure markets with a near monopoly market share. As tokenization and institutional crypto adoption accelerate, Hogan believes Chainlink stands to benefit disproportionately. So I want to go to, so again, Chainlink's one I think most of us have heard of. I've heard of it. I've done a shallow dive on it. I don't know if what this guy is saying is true, But I'll tell you this, if you go to the chain link, this is their long-term chart here. Forget the fact that back in 2021, they were over 50 bucks. In 2024, they were at $30. They're at $12 right now. So if they have a near monopoly on a crucial part of the infrastructure here that's going to occur in the cryptocurrency world, if that's true, and this is a company that was recently at $30, before that at $50, and it's at $12 right now, is this a good buy? I don't know. I'm going to ask you guys. Will Bitcoin outperform the equity markets over the next 5 years? That poll's been going on a long time. Let's shut it down. 79% of you say yes. Almost 80% think Bitcoin is greater than equity if you zoom out and look at a bigger picture.
Let's put it this way. I believe in XRP so much, I won't even talk about it. That's how, when you're just someday when you're right, cheers.
Yes.
I had a very high level conversation with myself, and I said, Self, what do you think about this? And the other person that I call Self said, well, let me tell you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? He goes, yes, we're not going back to the old system. Just saying what Trump said.
Does anyone own Chainlink or Link?
Tom, I do.
Ah.
When it dipped under 10 bucks, I bought it.
So you got some Chainlink. Is anybody else in on the...
So what I did, Tom, is I went through like the top 10 coins, and when they got stupid low and they keep doing it, it's just like anything else. All I do is DCA into cryptocurrency. Because it's going, whether we like this or not, cryptocurrency is the future. I don't necessarily like it. I kind of don't like it at all. For what it means and what it's going to do, but this is
you don't like what it's done, but you're doing, but you like it as an investment.
Right. As an investment, it's just everything's going crypto. I mean, listen, what do we talk about? No one's even understands the magnitude of blockchain and the stock market. Are you kidding me?
Right.
There alone.
We just saw the New York Stock Exchange say they're going to tokenize the entire process.
Do you know how many trillions of dollars it is? Daily.
It's astronomical.
Yeah. And we're just sitting here, all feeling doom and gloom. And this is one of the most amazing things that's happened as far as the adoption to crypto. And I don't even know, did they set what coin they're using?
I don't know.
I do. I'm not saying nothing. Know what you hold. I think that's the statement.
So XRP, I got somebody in the comments saying XRP would be a way better investment than Chainlink looking back at it. So XRP's already had a nice run. It's had a big pullback. George got into that for pennies on the dollar. I got into that decently, and I'm still buying some of it. So that's one that I do have some confidence in, right? We did a double deep dive on that years ago, and George has been pounding the table on that for a long time. So not financial advice, but George is in that big, I'm in it little, and that's one that I am comfortable with over time. And it has its own process that's different.
There's people that run the world, right? We all agree with that?
Well, they just all got together.
Right. Whether we like it or not, they run the world. And guess what? We're not going to knock them off of running the world.
No, that's right.
That's how it is. Either you're born into it or you're not. Unfortunately, I wasn't. Either were you. But you gotta, I think you got to look, 5, 10, 20 years down the road and what's going to be the best source of return. And that's why I'm in crypto. And I'm taking a shellacking. When I
Right.
say a shellacking, I mean a shellacking. And you know what? I mean, does it suck? Absolutely. Am I going to sell anything? Absolutely not.
This is where they get us on the volatility, because if you look, depending on when you got in things, some people are way off of their highs, but still way up from their lows. Some people are at their lows.
This is the best statement anybody has ever made. General properties. You got to be the king of your own world. And guys, I'm the king of my world. You can visit.
Isn't that what Leonardo DiCaprio said?
Right.
Is that his name?
I don't even know who that is. So.
The king of the
no,
world.
I'm the king of the world. Yeah, you're dead. In the movie, you know what I mean?
He didn't make it too much further past that.
No, but it's so true. Like, I'm creating, guys, I have like such grandiose ideas, whether they come to fruition or not. Fruition? Yeah, I guess that's right. I don't know, but I'm not gonna. And this is the first time I can compete with TikTok. I can compete with Facebook. I can compete. Me, George, nobody else. And that's what's crazy. Maybe not at the scale that they're doing it, but at a small scale, I can do it. And that's what is great about AI. Everybody's TikTok, everybody's Facebook.
It levels out the playing field to some extent. Like you started out by saying that, no one's getting into that 20-person club that runs the world, but you don't have to be the king of your own world.
And
queen, depending on who's out there.
If I take 1%, I just want 1% of Facebook. How much money do I have, Tom?
Yeah, billions.
There you go. 1%, guys. That's all I'm trying to do. That's all I want is just this lousy 1%. And we're moving there.
When you put it, when you look at it in those terms, it's like any goal. You got to take it in chunks and making progress.
I'm almost finally done with yak.us. I think what I'm going to start doing is doing XRP videos there, because you know what? They're not going to do anything there. But you are right, Jonas. Ripple keeps doing thing and leaving XRP in the dust, but there is a reason why they're doing it. There is a reason why they're doing it. This is bigger. This is so big that it doesn't make sense. And one of those, it's like so big, and either you understand what it's really designed to do or you don't. And when you really understand what it's designed to do, you will understand why it's doing it. But I can't really say those things on the air, because then you're an idiot. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. And I'm okay being an idiot, because I'm the king of my own world. And I'm an idiot.
Well, if XRP goes to $10, then anybody can call you anything they want.
If XRP just goes to $5, I'm the happiest man alive. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Who cares? I feel I've already won, so I don't care.
And I think these are modest targets. Again, that doesn't mean that's happening this month. Any day, week, month, they're making this almost impossible for you to guess in the short term.
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly right.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm eating those elephants. I'm just nibbling at those toes. Do they have toes?
Gotta have it. Everything's got toes.
No, it doesn't. It does. I don't think it does. I think it has a hoof.
Come on.
One big toe. Yeah, one big toe. So, Tom, it's 6:10. I think I can tell you.
Okay.
Who would be the one person, and supposedly he's really being considered as the new head coach. Who would be the one person that you probably would not watch the Bills?
Who would be the one person to get the head coaching job? I have a feeling I know who you're going to say.
Who?
Bill Belichick.
No, I actually would want Bill Belichick.
Because
I
I
actually
think,
do.
I think,
actually think he could win it.
well, what greater glory would there be for him than to go right in that division and take those guys out?
I would absolutely love Bill Belichick. I know we've had our problems with him in the past. McDaniel.
Oh no. No.
Go to heavy.com and read the article.
Oh, that
He's
would be my nightmare.
Right. He's either going to come in as a coach or the offensive coordinator. And I am like, what are you saying?
Well,
offensive coordinator.
Then that means what's his name's going to get promoted to coach? Brady.
Right.
If McDaniels comes in as the offensive coordinator.
Well, that would be the stupidest thing ever. I mean, they ended up, come on. Are you kidding me?
I'm going to hope that doesn't happen.
And me too.
Buffalo has not looked good based on the press conference they had. For those of you who care, you can go watch their owner pretty much make a fool out of himself, I guess.
Oh, clip it, highlight. Remember the time.
Oh boy,
about the toilet. Yeah, I don't even know who they should pick.
It doesn't see. It's funny because it doesn't. You would think it's a highly coveted job. I just don't know any big names that are out there.
Right. So. And before they fired the guy, they should have thought about this. This is why you don't make emotional decisions, because it's not really good talent out there right now.
So that you're wrapping right back around to this where we started this whole stream. Do your due diligence.
Yep.
Based on the facts, not on your emotion of the moment. If he truly did what he said he did, then that was foolishness.
Let's say he didn't do it, but he said that. That's even more foolish.
Well,
why would you say something so asinine as a freaking owner? I was crying with him, so I fired the coach.
Here's my quick theory, and I know for those of you who don't care about football, this kind of applies across the board. This guy's a billionaire. He's a multi-billionaire. And when you get to the top of organizations like that and you get to people with 8, 9, 10, 11 figure money, they live in a world where all they get are yes from everybody everywhere. And they have absolutely no idea, certain parts of what makes up reality because they're shielded from it. So he may have thought everything he said was, perfect because he was saying that inside the organization. And what are you going to say to the owner? Yeah. Oh, yeah, perfect. Great. But he's not said this is not a guy that's used to being in front of the camera, and he doesn't know what to say clearly because everything he said was wrong.
Oh, I agree. Jimmy would be great. Bring back old Jimmy Johnson. I would love to have him as a coach.
I know, but man, he don't want the headache at his age.
No, he don't want it. No. I would actually, I don't, they're going to go, either Bean's going to get it or they're going to go outside the norm. I don't even know where it's heading the next few months. I think the problem is right now, this is a game. I think there's a power struggle, guys, whether you understand it or not. There's a big power struggle going on right now. And it's unfolding in front of our eyes in ways that we don't even understand. And that's what's really going on.
So if you look at, I'll close out on the 1 day. This is the Bitcoin 1 day. And I would just say, and I can't draw, so pardon the squiggly lines, but we bottomed out on November 21st at just a little over 80,000. I mean, if that's not consolidation, then I don't know what is. That is a long window of consolidation, I believe. And what typically has happened in the past is a move to the upside is somewhere in the future. But listen, we've had in this bull market, which is now 3 years old, unless you consider, and some of you think it's over, and that's what time will tell. You might be right. In this bull market where we went up so much, from 15,000 to 126,000 at the top, we had a 7-month stretch in the middle of that where we just went sideways for 7 months. That was brutal. So are we in for another one of those? And that's why these short-term price targets are so difficult, because you don't know. But what I think we agree on, and the poll showed that, is that over the next 5 years, Bitcoin's going to outperform the market. So it's going to be a good thing to hold. Which day is it going to pop? I don't know. And this, this right here looks like consolidation to me.
Well, I'm going to say something to General Properties. If Bill just had no injuries, no reason to fire. They just had injuries, no reason to fire the coach. And I'll tell you this, it's even worse than that. Besides, a few people, they had no talent. They didn't even deserve to be where they were, guys. They did not, and they didn't even deserve to lose the game. I mean,
but the one guy that you could point to that's most responsible for that is the guy that got a promotion.
Right. That's why I think, he felt that he was going to get fired, so he threw McDummy under the bus. And I think
the whole thing was not a good look.
No, and I think McDummy, was, I think him and Josh grew together. And I think Josh hasn't even commented on it, Tom.
He's been radio silent, noticeably.
Because you want to know why? Because he's pissed.
Well, especially since the way the owner came out and said it, he almost basically blamed it on Josh Allen.
Right,
like, Josh was so upset, I had to fire the coach.
Right.
So that was
just like the coach didn't. Listen, last year the coach deserved to get fired. This year the coach didn't deserve to get fired.
Josh was upset because he had a bad game. I don't know.
Right.
This is from a Buffalo Bills fan who's a gigantic Josh Allen fan. Everybody has a bad game. He had one, and that's why he was upset.
Yeah, but the problem is, I think you got the new Josh Allen. You got the dad Josh Allen, and the dad Josh Allen's a different person.
Well, time will tell.
Yeah. I mean, talk about being born under a lucky star. That guy, I mean, he's a very talented individual, don't get me wrong. But, the talent, I mean, the luck just wasn't with him on that game. Because, like, some of those flea flickers he's done before, they've worked out. You know what I mean? Even though it looked like it could have been a fumble.
It's a game of inches. It's a game of split second calls. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
General Properties is saying the cycle has to be over, ? What kind of cycle doesn't have a time period? We surpassed the time we had after the halving by at least 15% by now. Well, that's true if there is a cycle. Remember, this is only the 4th time around. So,
guys, we're not going to get any more views. I'm going to end with this. Here's what's really going on in this whole crypto thing right now. We now have BlackRock in the crypto space. BlackRock is notorious as taking people's money. That's what they do. That's how they've grown their asset. Is because they can put so much FUD out there. They have so many people involved. It's not like 1 or 2 people. It's probably hundreds of people. And they probably have people that are really deep into each coin, and they understand what the exact use case of each coin is. And they are playing the game because they want all of it. Well, they don't want some of it. They want all of it.
And so far, they've managed to get close to $14 trillion of it. Yeah. So they're on their way.
Right. And so when you think the cycle, when you say, it's all over with, you know what? It isn't. At some point in time, scarcity is going to kick in on these things. And that's the thing that's not being totally allocated at this point in time, is the scarcity of Bitcoin.
That is a good note to end on. Thank you, George.
I'll see you guys.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up and participating. Special thanks to the members. Much appreciated. Hope everybody has a fantastic weekend. Go Bitcoin.
You can't say go Bills.